Welcome back to Touchdown Kingdom, your number one source for all things NFL all year round. Make sure to like this video and subscribe for more great content before the draft begins at the end of April. A couple of weeks ago, Touchdown Kingdom released the first edition of our 2023 mock draft, and today, we're ready to drop our latest predictions in our official 2023 NFL Mock Draft 2.0. Only 4 of the 31 first-round selections remain the same from our first mock draft, and to kick things off, we're going against the grain and shaking things up right at the start with a surprising pick for the Carolina Panthers at number 1. Rather than opting for either of the consensus top 2 quarterback prospects, Alabama's Bryce Young or Ohio State's C.J. Stroud, the Panthers take a massive swing for the fences and bet on the limitless potential of Florida's Anthony Richardson. Richardson has only started 13 career college games, and that inexperience shows up on tape in the form of unrefined throwing mechanics and inconsistent accuracy. That said, Richardson's unreal athleticism and arm talent shine bright enough to mask those problems more often than not. He used his 6'4", 244-pound frame, 4.4 40-yard dash speed, and howitzer of a right arm to make SEC defenses look silly in his limited action in the swamp. And while his mechanical issues are evident, Richardson's processing speed and decision-making are both more than adequate to succeed in the NFL. Richardson is as close to the league will ever see to the Panthers' last franchise quarterback, Cam Newton, with both players possessing an unfair combination of size, speed, and arm strength. Despite being considered a massive risk when he was drafted, Newton went on to become by far the best signal caller from the 2011 draft class, leading the Panthers to a Super Bowl appearance and winning a league MVP award in 2015. Drafting Anthony Richardson may be viewed as the same kind of risk right now, but if everything works out as hoped, the Panthers may just repeat history. The first of 4 carryover picks from our Mock 1.0, the Texans go in the opposite direction of the Panthers, trusting in Bryce Young's elite brain and clutch factor over his concerningly small stature. Young, the only Heisman-winning quarterback in Crimson Tide history, lit the college football world on fire the moment he touched the field, leading Bama to a national championship appearance in his first year as a starter. He masterfully dissects his opponents with an advanced ability to read defenses before the snap and quickly figure out where to go with the football after the snap. Few, if any, other players in the 2023 draft are as good as Young at playing the quarterback position. The major question Young has to answer isn't about his talent, it's about his size. Young is one of the smallest passers to enter the league over the last quarter of a century, measuring in at the combine with a first percentile 5'10" and 1/8 inch height and a 6th percentile 204-pound weight. If Bryce Young can prove his size won't affect him in the pros, just as it didn't affect him in the SEC, he will likely end up as the best quarterback from the 2023 class. If not, he may become a cautionary tale for future teams who bet on smaller quarterbacks. The Cardinals benefit from the early run on quarterbacks, having arguably the best prospect in the entire class fall into their laps at 3rd overall, Alabama pass rusher Will Anderson Jr. Arizona has been in search of a dominant edge threat ever since veteran Chandler Jones left for Las Vegas, and there's no one in the draft with a better chance than Anderson to fill that void. Anderson overwhelms his opposition with a deadly blend of strength, hand placement, and flexibility. He easily gets into the chest of blockers with ferocious, immediate strikes, while also understanding how to reduce his hitting surface and prevent those blockers from getting a clean grip themselves. Considering their massive need for pass rushing talent and Will Anderson's obvious ability, adding Anderson to end the edge drought in the desert makes too much sense. The first trade of our Mock Draft 2.0 comes by way of the Detroit Lions, who send picks number 6, 48, and 152 to the Indianapolis Colts for pick number 4. With the 4th overall pick, the Lions secure their quarterback of the future in Buckeye phenom C.J. Stroud. Stroud is the most well-rounded of the 2023 quarterback prospects, with more than adequate size, arm talent, mobility, and mental acumen to thrive in the pros. His best trait is his accuracy, as Stroud routinely hits his targets in stride and on time when they're open, and finds tight windows to make completions anyway when they're covered. Jared Goff played well in his first year as the Lions' starting quarterback, but if Detroit wants to make some real noise in the NFC, they need to find an upgrade. Paying a small price to trade up for the falling C.J. Stroud gives them that upgrade. Geno Smith's surprisingly great 2022 season landed him a $75 million contract extension from Seattle, taking the Seahawks out of the quarterback market in the draft and freeing them up to take one of the highly decorated defensive players at the top of the class. Enter Texas Tech's Tyree Wilson, one of the most athletically gifted players in the draft and a dangerous pass rusher that should help the Hawks defense right away. Wilson overwhelms blockers with his imposing 6'6", 271-pound frame and impressive 35-inch arms. His raw power jumps off the screen, but Wilson is also shockingly quick and explosive, especially given his size. In the NFL, you can never have too many pass rushers. Adding Tyree Wilson to their edge room will give Seattle another dangerous piece to enhance the already talented pair of Darrell Taylor and Uchenna Nwosu, who each had 9.5 sacks in 2022, giving the Seahawks a versatile trio of players they can unleash on opposing quarterbacks. Having felt comfortable with either Stroud or Kentucky's Will Levis at 4th overall, the Colts decide to move down 2 spots in the order and add some extra picks, knowing Seattle won't take a quarterback and Levis will be waiting for them. Levis may not have gargantuan stats like younger Stroud or 1 in a million athleticism like Richardson, but he is the most experienced of the bunch, played in a pro-style offense in college, and has plenty of arm talent in his own right. Indy has taken more than a few dart throws on end-of-their-career signal callers in recent years, with little to show for it. It's time they stop focusing on the past and start looking towards the future. The Raiders would have liked for one of the top 4 quarterbacks to fall to them at 7th overall, but unfortunately, that hasn't happened. However, Georgia defensive tackle Jalen Carter is one heck of a consolation prize. Carter is neck and neck with Will Anderson for the title of Best Overall Prospect in the 2023 draft. The 22-year-old from Apopka, Florida led a suffocating Georgia defense that has won the past 2 national championships. His combination of brute strength, lightning quicks, and instant reaction time make him virtually unblockable for all but the best of offensive linemen, and given his pedigree, the pros should be no different. Carter has faced questions surrounding his commitment to football and maturity stemming from an arrest for a traffic violation in February, but considering his talents and the Raiders' desperate need for impact players on defense, Vegas chooses to roll the dice and take the risk anyway. We had the Falcons taking Tyree Wilson in our mock draft 1.0, but with Wilson already off the board, Atlanta must look elsewhere to fill their desperate need for pass rushers. Myles Murphy from Clemson University is the next best edge rusher available, and while his ceiling isn't quite as high as Wilson's, he is more developed and could be more effective as a rookie. Murphy is a powerhouse defensive end with a rock-solid 6'5", 268-pound frame. He uses that immense strength to toss blockers out of his way or walk them into the laps of QBs. Murphy's strength shows up in the run game as well, as he constantly drives his man into the backfield and takes away lanes for backs to cut through. The Falcons were second to last in sacks as a team in 2022 with 21 total, one ahead of the bottom-ranked Chicago Bears. If they want to compete in a wide-open NFC South, they need to improve their pass rush, and Myles Murphy can help achieve that goal right away. The Bears seem sold on quarterback Justin Fields, evidenced by their decision to bypass the elite QB prospects at the top of the draft order and trade away the number 1 overall pick. If they want to make sure their decision pays off, they must provide Fields with better protection up front. Northwestern's Peter Skoronski is a technically proficient bulldog of a blocker who could start for the Bears at tackle or guard and would instantly upgrade Chicago's front 5. Skoronski is at his best when he's taking defenders head-on, flashing elite strength and an excellent understanding of leverage to uproot his men and drive them out of their gaps. He's also sound as a pass blocker, studying his opponent as the game progresses and adjusting his technique accordingly. Skoronski's athletic profile can't compete with some of the other freaks at the top of the offensive tackle class, but with his refined skill set and high football IQ, he's ready to go from the second he touches an NFL practice field. The Bears can't afford to wait for a player to develop on the job. They need someone they can rely on right now. Luckily, they don't have to look too far, as a ready-made pro lineman is waiting for them in their own backyard. Star cornerback Darius Slay is back in Philly after requesting a trade earlier in the offseason. He may be back for 2023 at least, but his time with the Eagles is clearly nearing its end, and Philly needs to start planning for their future after Slay sooner rather than later. Christian Gonzalez from Oregon is arguably the best cover man in the 2023 class and would be a perfect player to groom under Slay before eventually taking over the role himself. Gonzalez actually compares favorably to Slay as a prospect, as both players excel in off coverage or press, using their 4.3 speed to match receivers down the field and their 32-inch length to jam them at the line. Adding Gonzalez would allow the Eagles to feel comfortable moving on from Slay in 2024, knowing they'll have a Slay clone already waiting in the wings. The Titans released longtime left tackle Taylor Lewan at the start of the offseason, and while there's been rumors that Tennessee is interested in trading up for a quarterback, their best bet is to stand pat and shore up their offensive line for whoever their next franchise signal caller ends up being. Ohio State's Paris Johnson Jr. is a prototypical NFL left tackle prospect who would make the Titans feel like Lewan never even left the building. Johnson has an ideal frame for the position at 6'6" and 318 pounds with excellent 36-inch arm length. His measurables are pristine, but he isn't just a workout warrior. His tape is top-notch as well. Johnson erases pass rushers with well-placed strikes that stunt their momentum and shockingly quick feet to mirror them around the edge. In the run game, Johnson does a great job of creating movement at the line of scrimmage and getting out in space to seal big runs downfield. 2023 is the first draft for Tennessee with new GM Rand Carthon at the helm, and while trading up for a new quarterback would be starting with a bang, if Carthon wants his tenure in Nashville to last, the smarter move is to build a healthy foundation up front. The future of the Texans now rests on Bryce Young's shoulders, and as time has repeatedly shown, if you want a young quarterback to succeed, give them quality weapons to work with. Back-to-back Buckeyes come off the board as Houston selects Jackson Smith-Njigba to be Young's new wide receiver 1, giving the former Heisman winner a dynamic pass catcher who can routinely get open with crisp routes and create yards after the catch. Injuries limited Smith-Njigba to only 3 games in 2022, but in 2021, when he was fully healthy, Smith-Njigba was unstoppable. Then a true sophomore, Smith-Njigba hauled in 95 passes for 1,606 receiving yards, third most in all of college football that season, and 9 touchdowns. Former Buckeyes and teammates of Smith-Njigba, 2022 11th overall pick Chris Olave, and 2022 10th overall pick and Offensive Rookie of the Year winner Garrett Wilson, both say that JSN is the best receiver amongst their group. If they're right, Houston's passing game should be ready for liftoff. After seeing their top wide receiver prospect get passed up by the Texans, the Chargers strike while the iron is hot and trade up to get their man in TCU's Quentin Johnston, acquiring the 13th overall pick from the New York Jets in exchange for the 21st and 85th picks in 2023, as well as a first-round pick in 2024. LA has a penchant for big-bodied pass catchers who can make contested grabs deep downfield, and Johnston absolutely fits their mold. Johnston was the X-factor of the Horned Frogs passing game that led TCU to a surprising appearance in the 2022 National Championship game. The 6'3", 208-pounder caught 60 balls for 1,069 yards and 6 scores, posting an impressive 17.8 yards per catch. Johnston constantly beat up on lowly Big 12 DBs on deep shots, boxing them out before snatching the ball at its highest point. The Chargers need to surround star quarterback Justin Herbert with as many talented receivers as possible. Rumors are swirling that New England has fallen out of favor with quarterback Mac Jones, and after last year's ugly offensive performance, it's easy to understand why. However, Jones's struggles weren't the only issues at play for the Pats. Their lack of receiver talent was also a major problem. Zay Flowers from Boston College is just the type of explosive playmaker New England needs, and he's only a hop, skip, and a jump away from Foxborough already. What the 5'9" Flowers lacks in stature, he more than makes up for in speed, posting a blistering 4.4240 at the NFL Combine. The senior from Fort Lauderdale racked up over 3,000 receiving yards in his 4 years in Boston, posting career highs in catches, yards, and touchdowns in his final season, with 78 grabs for 1,077 yards and 12 scores. Whoever ends up playing quarterback for the Pats in 2023 will need targets to throw to. Combining Zay Flowers with newly signed receiver Juju Smith-Schuster and tight end Mike Gesicki will complete New England's new-look offense. While the NFL world waits for the Packers to finalize the trade of Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, the Packers themselves are planning for life after Rodgers. Former first-rounder Jordan Love will be taking over under center for Green Bay, and giving him a security blanket in the form of a tough-as-nails tight end like Notre Dame's Michael Mayer is a good way to help Love thrive in his new role. Mayer is a throwback to the old days of the NFL, a 6'4", 250-pound tight end who thrives on the line of scrimmage as a blocker and bodies up linebackers and safeties over the middle for contested catches. He plays with an aggression that not only flashes when he's blocking, but also when he has the ball in his hands. Mayer is a load to bring down, running through arm tackles and dragging defenders on his back for extra yardage. Veteran tight end Mercedes Lewis has been the Packers' ageless wonder for a few years now, but eventually, Lewis will need a viable replacement. Michael Mayer would not only remind Packers fans of Lewis when he's crushing defensive ends in the run game, but also remind them of Jermichael Finley when he's scoring touchdowns in the red zone. The Commanders have a plethora of needs and not enough picks to fill them all at once. So, they keep it safe and take the best player left on the board, Penn State cornerback Joey Porter Jr. The son of former Steelers Pro Bowl linebacker Joey Porter Sr., the younger Joey Porter found a home in pass coverage as opposed to pass rushing like his father. Porter Jr. is another member of the Seattle-style cornerbacks club, a big, long, outside cover man who thrives in press coverage, squeezing receivers into the sideline and taking them out of the play. He's feisty at the catch point, using his length to knock down balls and fight through receivers' hands when they try to make a catch. The air in Landover is full of uncertainty, but one thing Washington can be sure of is teams need good corners to succeed in the league, and Joey Porter Jr. is one of them. The Steelers haven't lived up to their storied reputation of suffocating pass defenses in recent years, and with the passing talent in the AFC North only getting better and better, Pittsburgh needs to load up on quality cornerbacks. Devin Witherspoon from Illinois isn't just a sticky cover man, he's an aggressive force on the back end that fits Pittsburgh's gritty blue-collar roots like a glove. Witherspoon is a heat-seeking missile when triggering downhill on runs to the edge or wide receiver screens, running through his attempted blocker with jaw-dropping ease before laying a crushing hit on the ball carrier. In coverage, Witherspoon is instinctive and reactive, with a knack for getting his hands on the football, intercepting 5 passes and knocking away 25 over his 3-year career. The days of the steel curtain may be long gone, but adding Devin Witherspoon will go a long way towards getting back to their former greatness. Detroit landed their eventual franchise quarterback earlier in C.J. Stroud. Now they get to round out their defensive line and bring in another kneecap biter for Lions head coach Dan Campbell to let loose. Clemson defensive tackle Brian Bresee is an uber-athletic interior lineman that's still learning how to maximize his gifts. However, Bresee is still incredibly disruptive despite his technical flaws, and if he learns the finer points of the game, he could be just as good or better than any other DT in the 2023 draft. Bresee's lightning-quick first step at 6'5" and 300 pounds routinely leaves blockers grasping at air as Bresee slips by them and into the backfield. He's also tremendously strong and has no issues tossing blockers away when they do get hands on him. Bresee's problems show up most in the run game and stem from his pad level and gap discipline, as he often plays too high, leading to him getting moved at the point of attack or shoots into the wrong gap, leaving an open lane for runners to hit. If Bresee can iron out his run game struggles to become an every down tackle, he should be a dangerous havoc wreaker any defense would love to have, and just the type of player the Lions covet. The Bucs cut veteran left tackle Donovan Smith after 8 years with the team, and with Tom Brady also out of the picture, the rebuild is officially underway in the Bay. Just like the Titans 8 picks earlier, Tampa is best starting off their rebuild with a blue-chip offensive tackle prospect to shore up the trenches. Georgia's Broderick Jones is the most athletic of the 2023 tackles, leading all offensive linemen at the NFL Combine with a 4.97-second 40-yard dash. Jones packs a devastating punch in his 6'5" and 311-pound frame, digging linemen out of their gaps and knocking linebackers into the dirt with ease. It may be a few years before Tampa is back competing for Super Bowl trophies, but if and when they do get back to the big game, Broderick Jones will likely be one of the main reasons why. Seattle rounded out their pass rush earlier in the draft. Now they need to help make sure their investment in Geno Smith pays off by giving him another dangerous wideout to pair with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. USC's Jordan Addison has been one of the best receivers in all of college football the last 2 years, catching 160 balls for more than 2,200 receiving yards and scoring 21 touchdowns. Addison is a pro-ready route runner who creates separation with sharp cuts, varied releases, and crafty head fakes. He's always finding ways to get open, making him a reliable target his quarterback can trust at all times. Addison is capable of playing outside or in the slot, allowing Seattle to move their top 3 pass catchers all over the field however they see fit, creating headaches for any defense the Seahawks face. Whether Aaron Rodgers is officially a member of the Jets by the time they make their pick on the draft's opening night or not, New York must make sure their offensive line is in the best shape possible, so that Rodgers spends his time in the Big Apple scoring touchdowns and not picking himself up off of the turf. After trading down and adding ammo to make up for the trade for Rodgers, the Jets take the best offensive tackle left on the board, Tennessee's Darnell Wright. Wright is a hulking bookend blocker at 6'5" and 330 pounds, stopping power rushers in their tracks and collapsing the line of scrimmage with superhuman strength. He's also proven himself against elite competition, shutting down Will Anderson and fellow top edge prospect B.J. Ojulari from LSU in his respective matchups with the pair. The Jets are still hoping Mekhi Becton can overcome his poor injury luck and get back to his excellent rookie form. If Becton does stay healthy, Darnell Wright can man the other side of the line and give the Jets 2 mammoth tackles to keep Rodgers standing. If Becton fails to rebound, Wright gives them a capable insurance plan to help soften the blow. The Ravens' draft strategy will ultimately revolve around what happens with quarterback Lamar Jackson, but after signing free agent receiver Odell Beckham Jr., it seems like Jackson will be back for 2023 based on his clear approval of the move. Assuming Lamar is still in Baltimore for at least one more season, the Ravens are free to do what they always do with the 22nd overall pick, let the board play out and take a quality prospect and perfect scheme fit at a position of need. Georgia cornerback Kelee Ringo is a long, fast press man specialist who could slide right into Baltimore's secondary across from Marlon Humphrey. Ringo excels when he can get his hands on receivers early and dictate their movement off of the line of scrimmage. His jam is strong, immediate, and usually effective, but even if Ringo does lose at the line, he has the raw speed to recover and get back in the play. The Ravens always want to have a talented back end, and if the Lamar situation gets figured out, Baltimore looking for DBs in the draft is a pretty good bet. Minnesota's edge rusher room may be okay right now, but starting duo Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith are both getting up there in age, and either player could be due for an upgrade before too long. Like the Ravens' one pick earlier, the Vikings turn to the never-ending well of elite defenders in Athens, selecting Georgia defensive end Nolan Smith. Smith led all linebackers and defensive linemen at the Combine with a blazing 4.39-second 40-yard dash. He uses that elite speed to whip around offensive tackles for sacks and chase down ball carriers sideline to sideline. Learning from the likes of Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith will only help Nolan Smith get better as a pass rusher and give the Vikings confidence that their pass rush will still be effective even after their veterans move on. If the Jaguars want to cement their reign atop the AFC South, they need to keep their offensive line stable, especially after losing starting right tackle Jawan Taylor in free agency. DeJuan Jones from Ohio State is a skyscraper of a tackle prospect at 6'8" and 374 pounds, who uses his incredible size to overwhelm defenders and would immediately replace the aforementioned Taylor. Jones is a brick wall on the edge who keeps rushers away from his quarterback with otherworldly strength. He's immovable with the point of attack, making power rush moves virtually useless against him. Rushers can't just run by him either, as Jones is so big that those rushers have to take a wider arc to clear him, on top of Jones's ridiculous 36 and 3/8 inch arms pushing them even further outside. Jacksonville has a chance to take over their division for the next handful of years, but it won't happen without making sure their front five are in the best shape possible. DeJuan Jones can solve their need in the short term and give them a foundational piece for the future. The Giants' offense saw a revival under head coach Brian Daboll in 2022. Now it's time for their defense to do the same. Cam Smith from South Carolina will improve New York's defense right away by providing them with a playmaker and tone setter on the back end. Smith is at his best in zone coverage, where he can keep his eyes on the quarterback and drive on routes when he knows a pass is coming his way. He's also fearless as a tackler, chopping down receivers and running backs with the same aggression he drives on the ball with. The NFC East is filled to the brim with dangerous wideouts. If the G-men want to compete, they need to be able to cover them. Dallas lost tight end Dalton Schultz in free agency, but they can keep their offense humming by replacing him with another dynamic Dalton, Utah tight end Dalton Kincaid. Kincaid is an electric receiving weapon who blows by linebackers and safeties with a rocket get-off. He runs routes and catches the ball like a wide receiver, sticking his foot in the ground to make sharp cuts and snatching the ball out of the air in stride. Kincaid isn't the best blocker, but he gives good effort and can get the job done when he isn't asked to take defensive linemen on one-on-one. In Dallas, Kincaid's primary duty will be to create problems in the passing game, not block, which should help his transition to the pros go smoothly. The Bills signed former Patriots running back Damian Harris in free agency, but considering their desperate need to find a running game to help take the load off of QB Josh Allen, doubling up and taking the draft's best runner in Bijan Robinson from Texas is well worth it. Robinson is a tackle-breaking machine with the elite vision, agility, balance, and strength needed to be a star in the pros. The Tucson native racked up over 3,400 rushing yards in his 3 years in Austin. His final season was his best, posting career highs in yards and touchdowns with a staggering 1,580 yards and 18 scores on the ground. Buffalo is the current leader of a cutthroat AFC East division, and if they want to stay on top, they need to find a balance on offense. Adding Bijan Robinson will not only give them that balance, but turn a former weakness into a major strength. Cincy has been a Super Bowl contender ever since Joe Burrow's second season, but they've yet to claim the Lombardi Trophy for themselves. If they want to get over the hump and bring home a title, they need to support their high-flying offense by improving their pass coverage. Maryland's Deonte Banks is an elite athlete at the corner position with the size, speed, and fluidity to match up with any kind of receiver. Banks dominated the combine by measuring in at 6 feet tall and 197 pounds, running a scorching 4.35-second 40-yard dash, and jumping an impressive 42 inches in the vertical leap. Banks' elite athleticism allows him to play in a variety of schemes and alignments, boxing out receivers in press just as easily as he mirrors them when backed off. The Bengals are extremely close to winning a championship, and if they add Deonte Banks, they just might make it happen. The Saints' offense should be ready to roll under new quarterback Derek Carr. Now they can focus on keeping their D-line deadly and dangerous. Iowa's Lucas Van Ness is a gritty, powerful, versatile defensive lineman whose brute strength is too much to handle for most blockers. At 6'5" and 270 pounds, Van Ness is capable of playing multiple spots on the line, either as a traditional defensive end or as a defensive tackle. His raw power allows him to hold his ground in the run game, stacking his man before forcefully discarding them, as well as allowing him to run through them as a pass rusher, collapsing the pocket like a human bulldozer. New Orleans lost one of their former starting defensive ends, Marcus Davenport, in free agency, but adding Van Ness will make sure they don't skip a beat. The Eagles made a massive commitment to quarterback Jalen Hurts in the offseason, signing the 3-year vet to a monstrous $255 million extension. If Philly wants to make sure that money goes to good use, they would be wise to continue adding blue-chip pieces to their offensive line. Osiris Torrance from the University of Florida is the best guard in the 2023 draft and is a perfect fit for the Eagles with his strength and anchor. Torrance owns the line of scrimmage, moving defenders wherever he wants with vice grip hands and Mack truck-like power. In the pass game, Torrance uses that same power to stonewall rushers who try to run through him, digging in and holding his ground like a thick tree stump. Considering the Eagles' emphasis on the power run game and keeping the front of the pocket intact, Osiris Torrance would be an ideal fit for Philly to plug into their starting lineup, making sure Hurts always has room to spread his wings. The Super Bowl champion Chiefs signed free agent Jawan Taylor to be one of their starting tackles in 2023, but considering they lost both of their previous starters, Orlando Brown Jr. and Andrew Wiley, their work is only halfway done. Oklahoma's Anton Harrison is the last first-round caliber tackle prospect left available, and the last missing piece KC needs if they want a shot to repeat as Super Bowl winners. Harrison is a technically proficient jack-of-all-trades who can be relied upon in both the run and pass games. He isn't the most athletic, but he understands how to maximize his talents with great technique and a keen eye for weaknesses in his opponents. Harrison's best trait is his ability to vary his pass sets, expertly knowing when to get hands-on early or fire off around the corner to keep up with a speed rush. Anton Harrison may not have the same ceiling as some of the other top tackles in the class, but he's developed enough to be trusted to start as a rookie. Given Kansas City's need for quality blocking right now and not in the future, Harrison's high floor makes him their best possible option. Thanks for tuning in to Touchdown Kingdom's 2023 Mock Draft 2.0. If you watched this far, you probably enjoyed what you saw, so don't forget to like this video and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any great content coming in the future. Touchdown Kingdom, your #1 source for all things NFL all year round.